Welcome, everyone, to a March Madness offseason chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by the Hall of Famer, Kansas head coach Bill Self. And Bill, crazy season that concluded a month ago. You had tons of health issues with this team. You were sort of recovering from your own deal, and you guys never got to where you wanted it to be. Obviously, a great game against, as you were going forward, and then you sort of ran into a hot Gonzaga in that second round. Let's go back first. How would you assess the way your group was able to navigate a real difficult season?
I think Andy, I think overall we probably did an above average job. I mean, we had an off the court incident that set us back right to start the season, and we lost a player. And then when we were healthy, we were good. I mean, we beat Tennessee, beat UConn.
I was there for Indiana. You guys look great.
Yeah, had a. I think we were 12-1 non-conference. The only team that got us was Marquette. We beat Kentucky and had some really good wins, and then started conference play out slow. Not very good, but we had no depth. We didn't have much depth, but we were good enough to beat Houston and Baylor and Texas and some good people. But when McCullough got hurt, and basically we went from 5 legitimate starters to 4, it was a different team after that point. And Kevin tried to come back. He just couldn't do it. He gave it his all, but his knee just wouldn't cooperate. And so we limped home. And I'd say I don't know what the percentage of teams in America, even ones that make the tournament, there's some teams that are ascending and there's some teams that are descending. And very rarely have we been a descending team, but I felt like everything had to go right too much for us to have a consistent and make a run. We lost the game against Gonzaga. They handled us. I mean, they whipped us. We lost that game against Samford because we had to play guys 38 minutes against Samford, and that game was back and forth. And Samford had a good team, and we win that game, and we're all happy. But you got to play again in 36 hours, and we hung in there. We played well for a half, but we just ran out of gas. And Gonzaga was so much better that day. But it was an okay year. By most standards, I'd say it'd be a well above average year. But for us, it was something that we needed. We need to have a good offseason and get back on track because we felt like we got a little off track.
So that's exactly what's happened. But before you even go into the portal and the freshman class, you got to know what's coming back. And unlike a lot of your peers that are having to almost restock the whole team, I mean, you've got a great core coming back with Hunter Dickinson, KJ Adams, DeJuan Harris, Marco Jackson. We'll see if Johnny Furphy stays in the draft, doesn't stay in the draft. But even if you stop there and just add some role guys, that's a team that can go pretty far. How did that all happen just with these returns?
Well, we really didn't, with Juan and with KJ and with Hunt was the only one of the 3 that probably seriously considered, entering the draft. So, we caught a break there. El Marco didn't have the freshman year that he had probably hoped, but he's a heck of a prospect. And Johnny probably had a better freshman year than what anyone would ever imagine. And so he's in the draft. And the chances are, I think that, he'll probably stay in the draft because I think he'll go in the first round. But still losing Johnny and losing McCullough, that's quite a bit. But like you said, not too many. I can't complain too much. Not too many people return 3 quality starters and a couple that's won a national championship. So we're happy to get Juan and KJ and Hunt back, and El Marco will be better, and Jamari McDowell's back, and Zach Clemens, who didn't play this past year. Zach's a good player. I mean, he's a really good player at 6'10". He's back, and then we had to go, in my opinion, address our weaknesses in the portal. And I think for the most part we have. I don't know that we've addressed every one of them, but for the most part, I think we've done a pretty good job with Zeke Mayo and Rylan Griffin, obviously, and AJ Storr. We also got a commitment from a young man from Florida, Riley Kugel, that it's up in the air whether or not Riley will come. But certainly those other three we feel really good about.
Griffin, Mayo, and Storr, all in a variety of ways. They can definitely they can score.
They can they better. You're exactly right. They can make a basket.
So you were saying that you were addressing the weaknesses. What were those that you had to fill?
I think perimeter shooting. I think obviously athleticism, and just overall depth. Last year we're playing 5 guys. We tried to work out a sub situation where you play 5 starters and sub all 5 at once and play the reserves 1 minute at a time, and to make sure your 5 starters play together 35 minutes. We were so beat up we couldn't even do that. But that was the thought that we had. How do we keep these 5 guys together? Because those 5 guys were being shown as pretty good. But it didn't work out that way because of injuries. And I don't want to have to think like that again. I want 8 starters, Andy. And granted, even though you can only start 5, obviously, but have 8 guys that are good enough to be in the game at any point in time. You look at the teams that have won it for the most part, and you look at Connecticut. Connecticut had their main guys. There's no doubt. You could bring a guy off the bench and rest somebody for a certain period of time, whether it be in the pivot or whether it be a rotational guard or whatever, and there's not a drop-off. And so those were areas we had to address, and I think for the most part, we did a pretty good job.
With Hunter, this is the COVID year.
This will be his 5th.
Yeah. What does he need to do to take that next step?
I think athletically, he can still do better, guard ball screens better, set and get out of ball screens better. And the one thing that, we love Hunt, but the one thing that I don't think he did last year as well as he can do, he didn't shoot the ball consistently. He was on a roll. I don't know if you remember start the season, Katz shooting 70% from 3 for the first, half the first 13 games or whatever. And then after that, he went through a pretty big drought. I think just him shooting the basketball, which is what he does. I think he can shoot it much better and then just play a little bit more athletic. I would think the 2 things with him.
Storr's bounced around a lot. Obviously, had a breakout year for Wisconsin. What does he need to do to continue his growth?
I think AJ has bounced around a lot in high school, but he also was in a situation where
coaching change.
Yeah, and a lot of different things. But you're right. He started at St. John's, and then when Mike was let go, then he went to Wisconsin. I think AJ has to be more engaged defensively. Obviously, there's no reason why he can't be a great defender and a great rebounder. He can score the ball. He's got individual talent, but I also think he can get more consistent shooting the basketball. But I think he's one of those guys that late in the clock, Andy, he can go get a basket. And we were lacking that last year.
So scheduling wise, you never shy away from anything. Some games were done for you, some you did. At Creighton, that's gonna be a monster game. Kalkbrenner, we know he's coming back. And Hunter, that's in the Big East, Big 12 deal. You got Duke in Vegas. You play them essentially almost every other year with the champions. And the champions this year in Atlanta, you got Michigan State. You got the rivalry game at Missouri. You're still looking for another. That's all before the Big 12. What's your assessment of what you've built for this group that could be certainly in the top 3 in the preseason?
I think that I think it will be a schedule that prepares us for the grind of our league. I'll say this: we're going to 20 games this year in our league, and last year 18, I think, totally beat the hell out of everybody up. Our league was so competitive last year, and we didn't play as well in the league last year as what we had in most years. But you look at it, Houston could be a preseason top 5 team. Iowa State could be a preseason top 5 team. Baylor could be a preseason top 5 team. We could be a preseason top 5 team. Oh yeah, and you add Arizona, and that doesn't include everybody else that's so good and so competitive. So, and I may have left somebody out, but yeah, it's going to be a monster of a league. The one thing that's a little different now is obviously the majority of those teams you'll play once. where when when it was the Big 12 and we had 10, regardless who was in the league, you played twice. So that obviously makes the league a little different. But this league will be as good as it was last year. I see it even being better next year.
Yeah, what do you think of the additions of Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado?
I think they're great. I think it's good for our league. I think it gives us another footprint. I think from a time zone standpoint, getting into the Mountain Time Zone and getting into the Pacific Time Zone will be great for our league. I think there were 4 really, really terrific ads for us.
Last thing, I just curious your perspective. You played UConn in a great game. Their one non-conference loss in 2 years. They win back to back. You've won multiple championships. What did you think of this UConn team and the job that Dan Hurley's done the last 2 years?
Well, I think he's done a good job for longer than 2 years.
Yes.
Because you don't win 2 in a row now,
yes.
unless you were building to that.
Yeah.
And you know that.
Yeah.
He's been great. His staff has been great. I personally thought that the 2 teams that he's had, I don't remember anyone ever dominating college basketball like his 2 teams have. I look at this year's team. Last year I was a little out of it because I was sick. So I didn't study the tournament quite as hard because I was out of it. But this year, studying in it, really watching and studying, I didn't know their weakness. Speed, perimeter shooting, length, standing height, rebounding, late game execution, taking care of the basketball. Can they get their own at the end of the clock? Were they unselfish? Were their thoughts unselfish? Did they defensively defend in a way that gave you a chance to win every game, even when you didn't make shots? I thought they were damn good. I was disappointed that even their bench should have left too and gone pro, even though everybody else, I guess their starting 5 is all attempting, and I wish them good riddance for the rest of college basketball. But I think they had a great team. I think they had a great team and well drilled. It's hard, Andy, as you know, to make guys feel like they are so disciplined and at the time give them unbelievable freedom. You watch them play; they played that way, and they guarded. So I thought it was a complete team. I thought the best team I'd seen in college basketball, me personally, up until then, was obviously the 18 Villanova team. And you go back and look at those guys, Brunson, DiVincenzo, Pascal, what he did initially in the league, and all those other dudes. I mean, that was a real team that you had to defend all 5 spots at all times. Now, Connecticut was different because they didn't stretch it like Villanova did, but that was a real team. And then you go to Kentucky, obviously, with that team that Wisconsin beat in the Final Four. I mean, that was a real basketball team.
I'll add one more. It reminded me a lot in terms of their tournament domination of 90-91 UNLV.
Oh yeah. Well, I wasn't going to go back that far. That ages you a lot more than it ages me. but you stop and think about it. That team won by 30 in the championship game.
Yep.
Isn't that right?
Yes.
In Denver.
Yes,
correct?
And then lost to Duke in the semi.
In the same, the next year.
Right.
Now that was a dominant team, but I actually, I don't know if Connecticut was the only team that could have won the national championship. I don't think that, but I don't know that I'd seen a team at that time of year play better back-to-back seasons than what Connecticut did. I mean, there was separation between them and everyone else that didn't exist during the regular season.
Yes.
That they galvanized it and put it together, all at the right time. But that just goes to show you how good that team was, because they were really good in the regular season and they hadn't even peaked yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, Bill, I appreciate it as always. Enjoy the spring.